And then are trends something where you're looking at trends as equity markets as a whole, or do you see trends on individual stocks as well?
Right. So when we have, big moves, whether it be, the shovel ready theme for infrastructure or cyclical commodities, a big, big, big theme of mine from
Oh.
summer of 2020 was things over paper. And that just
Mm.
meant that there was going to be an upswing in energy and in other commodities that had been depressed, basically oversold for decades. They were at multi-decade lows, and it was time for them to come up off the ground. And inflation was part of that driver. Higher yields was part of that driver, but that became a very durable trend trade that I had recommended to clients for uranium, for lithium, for oil and gas. That is what I mean by those are durable trends. They have a reason behind it. In this case, the macro of
Mm.
uh, of of inflation driving higher housing and food and energy, gas and the like, driving CPI, driving yields. They all kind of rates can pull yields higher and vice versa. Commodities can pull yields higher and vice versa. So there are some trends that then become durable.
Mm.
Um, Otherwise, they're typically more event driven swings. And
Mm.
once they're done, the profit taking takes hold and they go back into a chop zone and they're not of interest to me anymore.
Got it. Got it. Yeah. Very selective, very worthless in your management in a good way. So on in terms of the trend then, what what gets you out, or where when you're wrong, is it a technical stop? Did the theme sort of break down? So maybe if you want to use the inflation trade as maybe the example, I mean, is that a theme that's still going on, carrying weight and has interest to you, or are you kind of stepped aside right now?
Yeah, inflation is a narrative, but it's not a trading vehicle. But the proxies for Bitcoin or inflation or
Mhm.
value or growth, those are trading vehicles that I will then definitely follow in for trends, and they can definitely be your mega cap too. But the point is, for me, I'm looking at the the first and foremost, has it maintained, yes, a technical level that has not broken down? Has the narrative still stayed in play? Very much so, right?
Mhm.
And are we in an environment where that sector is also moving higher with the market, for example, if long? So if volatility comes in, it's tide, boats, right? Everything goes with it. So those are the times that must be protected, even with the strongest trends. They still can succumb to massive selling, right? They sell first, ask questions later when volatility comes in. We've had some very large surges. So that's why I really like to predict when volatility comes in. It's rare, but when it does, it damages everything. It
Yeah.
reprices everything. But otherwise, if we're still in a solid sector with a solid narrative, I have some key technical analysis levels that I look at, and it makes it feel safer. But there's still always earnings that can upset the apple cart. And I tell clients I have no edge when it comes to earnings. So I really, unless it's a trend, I don't even like to play earnings.
Hmm.
Earnings matter a lot, but I don't like to play the earnings event.
What about after the reaction after
Very
earnings? Is
much
that
love after.
yeah? Okay.
Totally. It's, it back to fishing. The
Yeah.
storm, or the thought of a storm has passed. It's definitely the best chases, in my opinion, are post earnings.
And so that means you're on those earnings calls, or you're dissecting it, or you're looking at
No,
the
price action once the cash session
okay.
opens, or before, obviously, if they're pre-market or aftermarket. How good was it, and then what backdrop do we have? I mean,
Hmm.
this is very, very much a sentiment driven market, especially when we get to
Sure.
these extreme valuations and extreme, meme stocks and the like. So when we have a sentiment driven, retail, driven market, then there's more caution. And you can see also in kind of earnings announcements across the board if they are being rewarded for beats or they're being pummeled when they miss. So that will set the stage oftentimes for how productive it is to trade through earnings, but definitely after earnings.
Hey, it's Evan here. I hope you enjoyed this clip from our full-length interview. Don't forget, if you want to hear this entire episode with even more insights from our awesome guest, you can find it by searching the Smarter Trading Podcast in iTunes or on your favorite podcast app. You can also find all of the show notes for this episode by heading to thetraderisk.com/podcast. Thanks for tuning in.